being that you did grow up a Yankees fan, and I would imagine continued to watch mostly the Yankees throughout college and before you were working with the Mets, did you know how good of a booth Gary, Keith, and Ron were back in 2013 or whenever it was you said you were hired?
Yeah. I mean, that, listen, if you're going to go into this business, you pay attention to the greats, not just locally, but across the board. And so, of course, I knew what I was having the privilege of attempting to join.
Yeah.
What I didn't fully understand until I got in it was, it was a few things. How much it's like a ghost unit that you don't see behind the scenes that contributes to their greatness. Like, the four of us now, the three of them obviously, but the four of us are the ones that people pay attention to. But like our truck, like our producer, Greg Picker, he's the most creative guy that I've ever been around. And just the way that he pushes for 162 every single day to like try and do something different, try and do something entertaining or insightful. Like it just, you can never just sit there and show up at the ballpark. And the same holds true for the rest of the truck, the rest of the guys in the truck. But so that was the first thing. I did not realize like the 8-man unit that it really is. That's the 8-man unit is the traveling party, but everybody, and the camera guys, everybody's great. The whole crew. The second thing that I didn't realize is how much they were going to push me silently to be great and to learn how to take it to the next level. And why I say silently is like you show up, and I'm sure this is how it is with like great dynasties. You show up and there is this unspoken expectation. And if you don't pull on your end of the rope, that's going to be really uncomfortable. And I remember early on, because I had no idea what I was doing. I was very green. The only sideline reporting that I had ever done was, some high school stuff when I had started first 4 years out of school doing MSG varsity. And it's just such a different beast. And so, I remember like I'd come to the ballpark and I'd be like, whoa, Gary Cohen's been here for 2 hours already. Gary Cohen shows up before every single game, like 4 or 5 hours. The amount of work that he does is remarkable. And same holds true. Keith and Ron in their own ways. It's like, if you don't bring something to the table that clearly has been worked on, that they're going to find interesting, that's going to contribute to the broadcast. I would do hits early on and they would be terrible. And it wouldn't be like yeah, that's really interesting, Steve. And like, it would be like, all right. And the 2-1, and it was one of these things where, hey, you got to step up. Like you got to step up. And they were very helpful whenever I asked any questions and they helped me get to that point. But I remember thinking early on, okay, I have to work just as hard, if not harder than them. And my entire goal on a daily basis has to be to somehow find something that Gary Cohen doesn't know. And that's almost impossible to do. And so with that in the back of my mind, it drove me. And I look back on those early years, they were really difficult. They were really hard to try and find my niche, my space in that broadcast, but I would not have changed a day because there is no way. Like I thought I was a hard worker. I didn't know what hard work was until I was around those guys.
Was it a little deflating at times when they wouldn't engage just for the sake of engaging?
Oh yeah. But you know what? And I've told this story before, and this is again, and I have one of these with multiple ones, probably with all of these guys. But the one that the first one that sticks out to me and that changed my entire perspective is I think it was August, my first full year. So it was 2015. And I was just struggling. I was struggling with confidence. I didn't think I was doing a good job. And I wanted so badly to just take the baton from Kevin, which was an impossibility. Like you have to develop your own voice, but you also have to be around. Like you can't just step in and gain the trust and the contacts and the sources 2 weeks in. Like, you've got to be there on a daily basis for years. And so I didn't really give myself enough like of a grace period to do that. And so, you're in your head and you're struggling and you're overthinking everything. And so I was in Tampa Bay, August, that first year, and it was just Keith and I on the bus, just the two of us going to Tropicana Field. And, the thing about Keith is there's a reason he was the captain. Like, he views us as his teammates now, and he still treats us that way. And he was just, he was talking to me, and he's like, "Hey, you doing okay?" Like, I said, "Yeah." He goes, Don't worry about it, man. Like, you're a few months in, put your head down. You're doing better than you think you are. Keep working at it." And then we're talking about something else, and he says, "Hey, Tropicana Field reminds me a lot of the old Astrodome. And would you do me a favor? And after the game tonight, just when you're back in the hotel, do a bunch of research and just come up with a bunch of interesting facts about the old Astrodome for me to use on the broadcast tomorrow." And so I remember thinking, well, this is kind of weird that he's asking me to do his work for him. But yeah, I mean, it's Keith Hernandez. Whatever you need. And so I went back and I stayed up till 2:30 in the morning, finding out everything I could that would be relevant to a connection between the Astrodome and Tropicana Field. Show up at the ballpark the next day, go to bring him all these notes. And he's like, "Yeah, I don't have time to look at that right now. Just hang on to it. And, if we don't talk today, we'll talk tomorrow before the finale, and I'll get it from you. But thanks for doing that." Okay. So now it's, I don't know, the fourth or fifth inning. And out of nowhere, I'm not expecting to be on. I'm not thinking about anything. And Keith just goes, "This Tropicana Field reminds me a lot of the old Astrodome." And actually, Steve and I were talking about this. And Steve, I know you had some really interesting insights into it. And it was just like, boom, you're open, you're on. You can't overthink it. You just have to know the material and have a conversation. And we went back and forth for a little bit, as I remember it anyway. It was 11 years ago. But we do this thing, and after the game, Keith just says, "That's how you have to do it. Like, stop thinking, stop being in your own head. Just talk to us. Just have a conversation, casual." And that was, for me, the turning point. It didn't go straight up after that. It was, there's still ups and downs, but it was like okay, this is what I have to do, and this is how I have to treat it. And having a guy like Keith have your back like that, it also changes the dynamic. And again, they've all done that over the years. Gary's done, especially as I've gone into starting to do play-by-play. Gary's been amazing, supportive, helping me throughout that. And Ron similarly. Like, I remember Ron, one of the first play-by-play games I did, Pete Alonso, I think he tied the Citi Field home run record, or he broke the home run record, the Citi Field home run record. And I remember I'm making the call, and Ron takes his headset off, stands up and walks behind me. I don't know where he's going. And I'm a little panicked, like, wait a second, you're supposed to be analyzing this. And 5-10 seconds later, he comes back and he puts this note in front of me and he points to it. And it was a note about how much quicker he had done it than, I think it was Lucas Duda, who had the record before. And he just mouths, he's like, say that. And I learned that he had gone over to our stats guy, asked him the question, got the note, and gave it to me. He could have used it himself, but he wanted to make me sound better and be in that moment. So it is like, once I got over the hump with those guys, they have been amazing to me. And that's how we are as a group. That's how the whole group, it's about what's best for the broadcast. There's no ego involved. It's a really special work environment. I do not take it for granted. Not all environments are like this.
And I think to Kevin's credit, he built what is typically such a secondary role for a broadcast, and really made the position into being such a important part of the broadcast, and one that really resonated with the fans. At what point did you then kind of feel comfortable in that role and comfortable kind of being able to be yourself and knowing that this isn't just, maybe it would have been easier to do this with another team where it is a secondary part of the broadcast, but because it is such an important part of this broadcast, I'm sure that also put an extra pressure on yourself.
It put a lot of extra pressure on me. And it took me a long time, if I'm being honest, to be how I am now on the broadcast. I would say it took a good 5-6 years. It might not have really happened until COVID, to be honest with you, in 2020. I used to just I would put so much pressure on myself to do to really dig in. To your point, our broadcast, they want the sideline reporter to be an investigative reporter. Like, they want there to be deep dives in ways that a lot of other broadcasts don't ask and don't give the opportunity to the sideline reporter to do. And it was a great challenge, but it's hard. It's very hard. And I would do that so much, and I would just I would be like a little dry. I wouldn't be myself. And I remember my producer at one point, it was probably like 2018, 2019 in the offseason, he called me up and he said, I was thinking, because I still don't think after all these years, I think you do some good things, but I don't think we've like made it the 4-man unit that I want it to be. And when you're not on air and you're just with us and you're out, like, you're really funny. You're self-deprecating. You're like I don't see that at all on the air. Just do that. Just be that way. And it was in my mind, like it went into the back of my mind, but I still couldn't figure out how to do that. Like I was having a difficult time figuring out how to do that. And then COVID happened and we were all separated, and it forced everybody to be extremely creative. And in my role specifically, very hard to do a sideline reporter, clubhouse reporter role when you can't be in the clubhouse. And so I was able to use a lot of the contacts that I had and phone numbers and this and that to call and text players throughout. But what I had to do was really start to think outside the box. And so I would just look for these little things that I could do. And the first one I really remember was, Gary always, for years, he would always make fun of my checked shirts. He hated them. He still does. He hates if I wear checked shirts. And so he said it on the air one day when I was in, Studio 42 and they were on site somewhere. And he does this whole thing back and forth about the checked shirts. And I don't know why it came to me then, but I was like, you know what? Especially because I'm not going to be with them. They won't see me beforehand. He said, I'm going to wear a tux tomorrow and get their reaction. And I called my producer and he was like, I love it. I absolutely love it. And so we did it, and it was hilarious, and it was so much fun. And the once that kind of happened, the ball started rolling downhill. And I think once I opened myself up that way on the broadcast, then it became easier, not just because I was starting to figure out how to do it, but the guys felt more comfortable than doing those things with me. And so, I think, like, sometimes it's a little frustrating because I'll feel like I do something really good, like inside baseball, and nobody cares. And then I dress as like a hot dog on Dollar Dog Night and it goes everywhere. But the point is, I found this really nice, like, I try and, I don't know, in the course of 162, you don't want to force it, but I'd say I try and have like 5 to 10 just really fun, outside of the box, just we're not solving world hunger here. Like, let's have fun with it. And that's kind of, so I think, I started full-time 2015. I would say I probably didn't find my like full sea legs, this is how I am on this broadcast, until 2020.